Are we here? Hello, chat. Hello. How is how are you today, gamers? Should probably plug in my headphones before they fucking die midstream. Hello, Hex. Hello, hello. Be good playing new game. That's nice. That's nice. What game are you playing, Magi? Let me get this going, actually. Here to Shimoa. Hello, Sai. Hello. There we go. Digimon Cyber Sooth? That sounds interesting. Let's see. And like, I wish there was a way for me to lower the volume of my fans, but unfortunately, we do not have that energy. We do not have that technology. But hello. Let's read Smile Dog. So I was actually planning on eventually reading Smile Dog. Not right now, but um in in October I want to stream. I want to be reading one at least, like I want to read the classics, you know? Look at that. A little campfire. Little Terraria campfire. Let's see if I can get you guys on here too. That's so cool. Just like my favorite streamer. Look so whoops. Real cute, Sai. Real cute. Oh, this is my dono goal. This is not. Bruh. Should be you guys. Love this meme so much. I'm glad. I'm glad that you enjoy the pain that Whoops has. Rich Campbell. Okay, thanks. Get out of my head, get out of my head, get out of my head. Alright, I guess we're just gonna have to deal with this. That's fine. Alright, we're gonna type in at real quick. Does chat work? Chat does work, okay. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. And let me just make sure that we're not... Okay, okay. So let's get cute out of here. And let's get good old... Tell me if this volume is good, chat, or if I need to lower this or raise it. Hopefully this is good. And also, hopefully, the stream does not crash, because that's already going to be a short stream. Remember Mickey's Dick Smasher clip? That was a trip. It was a trip. We do have tea steeping on my left over here. As a heads up, if I do, I might be taking sips between. Okay, so we do have stories in line already. Maybe if y'all enjoy this, I'll do another one and you can recommend more. But again, I do have plans to do this on October already, every night, at least reading one. I was talking about like reading like the classic stories, and then they're trash. They're very bad. Maybe doing more afterwards, but let's see here. Let's get a dice roll out. To decide, because we do have 6 stories lined up today that I would like to read. I haven't read them in a very long time, so hopefully they are a little bit not bad, you know. Okay, I guess we're reading this one. This is Antran, and it does have an image, so I suppose I need to pull up the image alongside this. So get yourself comfy. We are reading spooky videos, spooky stories, spooky stream today, because I'm feeling it, you know. So this is classic creepypasta Antran. The picture you're staring at was taken sometime in the 70s. It's the only remaining image I have left of my son and the artificial being known as Antran, whom we adopted into our family at the time. The warm summer, back in the mid-70s, I was driving home from my logging company after a long shift when I had to make a stop at the local garbage tip to drop off some old desks my mother had given us. Something caught the corner of my eye as I bent down and, upon closer inspection, was shocked to see what I had originally thought was a doll. A plastic outer shell with metal limbs. And more shockingly, a humanoid face with cold, dark eyes. I'll be honest to say I was curious at the time and incredibly impressed with the workmanship, so I didn't think twice before placing it carefully along the back seat of my car and took it home. My son's interest was almost as intense as mine, and we bonded over the course of a few days opening it up, looking at its circuitry, and seeing if anything had been misplaced or broken. Eventually, to our surprise, the being, or android, seemed to come to life. Its eyes displayed a somewhat sentient tint to them. Its limbs turned, its hands gripped, and, after a few moments, it managed to stand on its own accord. Needless to say, we were scared, yet fascinated. Who could have created such a wonderful and remarkable piece of work? I thought to myself. It wasn't until a few weeks later that I realized this wasn't a toy or a doll. It showed incredible signs of intelligence and thinking ability. It learned to do everyday things, such as taking out the trash and playing with my son's toys. He even had a favorite, a small red car that he'd drive alongside the kitchen counters. It learned to mimic our ways. It was trying to eat from a fork, despite having no digestive system itself, moving its mouth, despite lacking the ability to speak. I knew this was something else. Perhaps a military piece of hardware, or a private project. I knew I should have handed him in, but when I watched my boy play with it so happily, his face lit up. I couldn't do it. He'd always been so lonely. This was one of his only friends. What kind of a father would I be, to deny him the right of happiness? It couldn't hurt to allow him to keep it for a while. We named him Antran, which was the print in capitals written in small font across his back. A few months passed quickly, and family life seemed to be improving. He was one of us. My lad's grades improved, his mood improved, everything was getting better. Until one evening in July. I was sitting in my armchair with a beer watching television. My boy and Antran had knelt down on the rug, play fighting with one another, as boys do. Suddenly, my attention was drawn to a loud gasp. I looked down and saw my child gripping his arm. "What's wrong, Adam?" I asked. He rolled up his sleeve, and on his arm was a large, red mark covering his forearm. "Antran pinched me," he replied in a shaky voice. The mark was indeed red. It would soon bruise into a swollen purple lump. My fatherly instincts took over me, and, like a parent telling off a naughty child, I shouted at the android. Its cold, metallic face, for a moment, seemed to show genuine sadness and sorrow, as though it didn't know its own strength, as though it was sorry its lips moved. Whether it was trying to muster up the words to apologize, their language, or merely copying what I was doing, we will never know. Later on in the evening, I apologized for the shouting. I told it everything would be okay, and thought nothing of it. A few weeks later, my child came into my room. It must have been early morning. My slumber was interrupted by the gentle creaking of my bedroom door. "Dad?" he whispered. "Yes, son," I replied. It keeps looking at me. "What? What does?" I asked him through tired eyes. "Antran. He keeps looking at me at the edge of my bed." His voice trembled, fearful. I could tell something wasn't right. I noticed him rubbing his other arm and immediately called him over. Pulling up his sleeve, my heart sank. More bruises. Must have been 4, 5, all the way up his arms. "Take off your shirt, Adam," I asked, trying to keep calm. I could feel a cocktail of emotions rising within me. Panic, fear, anger. He took off his shirt. As the waist pulled over his small head, my heart sank further, and my eyes welled up. Before me, my son stood. His small frame coated in bruises, different sizes, different shades of browns and purples. Immediately, I got up and stormed to Adam's room. Nothing. I shouted at the top of my lungs for the time being. Looking under the bed, out the closed bedroom window, nothing. Suddenly, a loud knock from above us, then hard footsteps. "It's in the loft," I whispered, my eyes to the heavens. As I paced down the corridor, I noticed the walls on either side of me were coated in scratches all the way up to the now swinging piece of string that leads to the small loft door. Slowly, I pulled it open, telling my scared son to stay where he was. The ladder fell down, and I climbed up. Taking a hold of the torch we left on the side of the opening, I turned it on, only to find the small window we have in there to be smashed. It had escaped. Immediately, I considered calling the emergency services, but who's going to believe me? A sentient metallic being hurting my child? They'll take one look at the bruises and they'll have me locked up for abuse. I had no choice but to keep quiet. Weeks, then months pass. Every time we went outside, we never noticed ever increasing signs of Antran's presence. The familiar scratch marks alongside the bricking of my home. Plants had been disturbed, patches of mud leading up to the windows. I feared for my son. Taking him to and from school, never letting him out of my sight. What had caused this sudden hostility towards us? Had we done it wrong? Was it my shouting? I found myself speaking out loud in the evenings, apologizing to the walls, to an empty room, in the hopes Antran would hear. Hoping he would stop the taunting, the endless stalking of my home. But my attempts were in vain. If I had known what had come, I wouldn't have slept that night. My sleep was once again disturbed, this time through a blood-curdling scream. My eyes started open, and immediately, almost as a natural instinct, I rushed to my son's room. It was too late. The room had been turned upside down. Everything was on the floor. The bed sheets ripped and his window smashed. I burst into tears, screaming at the top of my lungs for my son back. I called the police, telling them that my son had been kidnapped. They'd asked if I had seen the culprit. I lied and said I hadn't, hoping that the images of my son would be enough. Like they'd believe that this doll was sentient, harmful. The next few days I cried myself to sleep, sobbing like a child. Life wasn't worth living anymore. Never wish I had found that thing. I betrayed my son's trust in me as a father to protect him, and now I paid the price. It was a September dawn. I sat in my armchair drinking when I heard the pantry door creak open. "Adam?" I called, rushing to the kitchen. Again, nothing. Except there on the counter, Antran's favorite red toy car. That wasn't too bad. I like that. That is just as... it's about as decent as I remembered. So that was Antran, the spooky doll. If it's anything to learn from the story, it's don't fucking grab random creepy dolls from the dumpster in the back of a Burlington Coke factory. I don't actually know how they made that robot, but it is spooky looking. That's nice. I'm gonna mute up while I get a random number generator. Never messed with dolls in general. Very fair, very true. But I'm gonna mute while I get a random number generator loaded so we can get what's it called? The next one. Most of the CPS old creepypastas are just meh. Russian Sleep Project though, very good. It was very good. I'm saving some of my personal favorites for October. Russian Sleep Experiment is on there. Okay. This is... ooh. This one, I don't remember it being as substantial. I remember it being okay. But it wasn't nothing. I don't remember this being like too special. I think there's only... I think there's maybe one on this list that I remember being like pretty poggers. 1 second. Let me get some tea though. that. That needs to set more. Excuse me while I quickly tweet that I'm fucking streaming because I totally didn't forget. Also, how is the volume on the video and the microphone? Is it good? Are we good? She forgetting to tweet out stream? Nope. Never once. It's true. I've actually always remembered. Never been a time when I forgot. Volume is good? That's good. I think this is the one that I remember being half decent. At least because it had like good build up. But we have not gotten to, I guess, my favorite out of the 5. Is it 5? 6, my bad. Okay. This is for respect out of the culture, I will say a flesh pedestrian. Well, I will be referring to it as such. There's Shishi. How have you been? Good, good. We are. I think I might mix this tea a little bit, but we are reading spooky stories tonight. Because I am in the mood to. And we are about to get started on Flesh Pedestrian. Okay, so my father told me a story once. I'll never forget it for a few reasons. I think it's the first story he ever told me as a child. It's also the story of how my grandfather died. But honestly, that isn't the reason. You hear stories on TV, or sometimes you hear something in a public place. People talk about ghosts and aliens, and you think to yourself, that isn't real. They're making it up. Or they're mistaken, or they're crazy, or something like that. You just can't believe it. Until something happens. Something that brings it all together, connects the dots in a way you didn't think of before. Maybe it happens to you. Maybe you hear the same story again and again, happening to different people. It doesn't take long for the world to become a lot bigger than you thought it was. As I said, this is a story my father told me, but I never believed it, even though he swore up and down that it was true. It wasn't until I started clicking around the internet that I started to believe. I started to hear other stories just like the one my father told me. It didn't take me long to believe in it. Okay, I guess I should read that line as it is. And this will date the story pretty fucking well. It didn't take me long to believe in the rake. It's not what my father called it, of course. He never used the internet in his life. He wouldn't know what the consensus had taken in naming it. But when he chose to call it something other than it or that thing, he called it a flesh pedestrian after an old Navajo tale his grandfather told him. I'll tell you the story, the way he told it to me. We were out hunting that one night, he'd tell me, coyotes. We'd kill them for $50 a skin. They lived on a dairy farm in Ohio. They'd kill calves sometimes. We do it every night because we needed the money. Sometimes while we were out, we'd come on a deer and kill it. Our landlord didn't mind, and it could feed our family for a few nights and save us some money. Anyway, we were making our rounds and heading home, walking, because we didn't have a car, some four-wheeler back then. We cut through the woods. That's when we came up on it. Blood everywhere, splattered on the trees, in the grass, in the creek, everywhere. At first, we figured it was a pack of coyotes. We'd seen it sometimes. They can't scavenge and start hunting deer or cattle. The worst was when they bred with feral dogs, but this wasn't like that. See, when a pack of dogs or wolves or coyotes attack something, they do it right. They'll pick off one that's weak or sick or old or just small. They'll hunt it, draw it into a corner, someplace it can't get out of, and they'll run it right to the biggest one, the alpha. And that deer will never see the alpha. It might hear it, but it won't see it. It'll just notice that its throat is gone, and then it'll drop dead. It's quick, it's clean. That wasn't what happened here. Something had run up on a den of deer. Coyotes won't attack a den, wolves neither, because they get too much of a fight. There were three. I think 3 bodies, just torn apart. You'd see a head here, a leg here, a torso there. Predators don't do that. They don't leave behind scraps. What had done this hadn't done it for food. It had done it for fun. But we didn't know that. We saw a bunch of carcasses and we thought it was something we had to take care of. I remember my dad telling me to go home. He thought it was just a pack of feral dogs. But I wasn't leaving him, and I damn sure wasn't walking through 2 miles of woods alone with nothing but a .22 and a pocket knife. He was only 13 at the time, so a .22 rifle was about the only gun he could reliably use. Dad had the shotgun, and I wasn't going anywhere without it. It took me a while to convince him, but we finally began tracking whatever did that. It wasn't hard either. We just followed the blood. Either that thing blooded deer before it got away, or it dragged one for a mile. I don't know. I know that I'd never seen my dad scared before that night. We started hearing noises. I've been in a lot of woods in my life. I've been all over the world and ain't never heard noises like I heard that night. I heard things screaming. I heard deer and fox and rabbits and raccoons and birds just scared. Keep in mind, this was maybe 12 or 1 o'clock. Except the foxes and some birds, nothing was supposed to even be awake. But they weren't just awake, they were moving. I saw flocks of birds that night fly straight into trees just trying to get out of there. Came up on a pack of coyotes. Nearly shot a couple thinking it was what we were looking for. But then we saw that they were running towards us. They ran right past us. Didn't even notice. Then some deer did the same. Then some rabbits, squirrels, foxes, even a couple wild hogs. I think these things were supposed to be eating each other, and the only thing they cared about was getting out of there. We should have put it together. that maybe whatever we were tracking, it just wasn't something that we were supposed to see, and it wasn't something that we should kill. I don't know why we didn't just go home. I guess we were curious. I think that was my dad's nature, to go to war trouble to fight. Knowing what I knew about my father, about what my father did during the war, my nature was to stay close to him. We finally get into an open valley. It was normally a soy field, but it wasn't in season, so it was just flat dirt. We saw tracks then. A lot of the animals fleeing the forest had paved over the land, but where that deer blood was, nothing had taken a single step. Like they were leaving it for us to find. The tracks were shallow. Whatever it was couldn't have weighed more than 100 pounds, but that didn't mean much. A bobcat weighing 40 pounds nearly damn near tore out my throat once. All that means is that it's quick and hard to hit. So we followed the tracks, and it didn't take us long to find out where it is. So there's this old schoolhouse that sits on the top of the hill. Half of it had been ripped out by a tornado, but no one lived there, not for a long time. We caught homeless people in there sometimes, or druggies looking for a safe place to shoot up. We figured maybe that was it. Maybe it was some sick kid riding a high. But we didn't think that for long. We get within 50 yards, and we hear this noise. A screeching kind of sound. It was sort of made up of two different sounds. One was a high-pitched screech, another was a low-pitched growl. It was making both at the same time. We get within 20 yards and we hear this sound. I can remember thinking that it sounded like paper being torn apart, while someone was swinging a water bucket back and forth. Dad looks at me, kneels down and whispers, I gotta stay behind him because we're about to corner him. Any animal will fight back when it's cornered, especially when it's a predator. But we can tell by the tracks that it's just one. He tells me that it's just probably a single feral dog, probably rabbit. The plan is to sneak up on it while it's eating, shoot it, and then keep shooting till it doesn't move anymore, then slit its throat. If it gets to Dad, it's my job to shoot it or stab it to get it off him. So he walks up, and I'm right behind him, just a tad to his side, so I can see what it is. I wish to this day I hadn't. It was leaning over a carcass, tearing off its flesh and throwing whatever it doesn't nibble aside. There's blood all over the brick, glistening in the moonlight. It's pale, white, human-looking, but not quite human. It had arms and legs like a human, but it sat like a monkey, hunched over. Its hands weren't normal. It had long fingers with claws at the end. So we see that, and my dad hesitates. He wasn't about to fire on a person, so he clears his throat to try to get it to turn around. I swear to God, all the noise just ceased. I've never heard true silence before that, and not after it. But for 2 seconds, nothing made any noise. Which made it all the more louder when it turned around, made this shrill cry, and jumped on my dad. He got a shot off. I think he missed. If he hit the thing, it didn't mind. But it was on him. Tears part of him off. I start shooting it with the 22 point blank, but it barely bled the thing. Got off 5 rounds, and then I started hitting it with the gun butt, but it wasn't budging. It didn't even register I was there. I clawed at my dad, taking off bits of his flesh. It started at his torso, ripping off the skin, his chest. Then it moved up. It tore off his throat, it tore off his nose, his scalp, his eyes, it scalped him. It started digging in and ripped off the bottom half of his jaw, the little bones, and that tube in your neck, then his ribs. You want a random Gremlin sound check, Red? While we're this is what the let me lower my microphone a little bit. This is what the fucking thing sounded like. It was like Bro, that shit, something jumped on me and made that sound. I'd accept my fate. That was it. That'll be it. Don't mind me just interrupting your ASMR. No, we're fine. It's not ASMR. We are just soft reading spooky stories. Smile. Rake noises, yeah. I actually voiced the rake. I don't know if you guys knew that. I don't exactly remember what happened, but somehow my dad's knife ended up in this thing's shoulder, and my dad ends up on my back. I'm running, and by God, I'm running faster than I've ever run before or after, and it's following me. I end up in the woods, opposite of the ones we'd been in. I'm heading towards my landlord's house, because it's half a mile away. I can hear this thing screeching and moaning. I hear the tree branches crack and get thrown around. It sounds like someone's taking an axe to every single tree I pass. It's cracking so loud and often, but I'm just not looking back. Finally, I trip into gravel. I look up and there's my landlord and a bunch of his buddies, drinking around a campfire. I scream and cry and they come over. I'm telling him to call an ambulance and he looks at me, and I'll never forget what he said. "What is that on your back?" he asked me. But just as he said it, I saw one of those god-awful flannel shirts my dad wore everywhere. It was what was left of my dad. Most of his head, his torso, but nothing after the waist. Suddenly, we hear it, screeching. He grabs me. My dad gets thrown on the ground. I'm fighting him, crying, because I think that we can still save him somehow, but my dad has been gone before I even picked him up. He has to pick me up and throw me inside before I come with him. He and his buddies were all inside and locking their doors and getting guns. The landlord asked me what happened, but I just don't know what to tell him. He pieced enough of it all together to understand there was something dangerous out there. Mm-hmm. Something dangerous, huh? Okay. I wonder what made them think that. All the lights in the house are on, and someone calls the cops. They'll be there, but in 15 minutes. We look outside and see it walk in front of the fire they made. Don't know what it is. One of them says it looks like an ape. Suddenly, something goes through the window. We shoot at it, but it ain't the thing. It's my landlord's dog. Just the body, though, not his head or legs. We start pushing things in front of doors and windows when we hear something in the garage. I remember one of his friends saying that the doors were open. Here, we hear metal and glass just get ripped apart. We put a couch and a TV in front of the door to the garage. Probably about as dangerous as a cat. Yeah, maybe like after you take its food, you know. Cats can get pretty cranky. Banged around some more, but then it got quiet. Not silent like it was before. We could hear it move around and the guys were talking, making sure the guts were ready. Someone hands me a pistol. No sooner did I cock the hammer back did we hear something shatter upstairs. Then we heard it screech again, except now it was louder, and it didn't echo and fade out, because it was inside. We all rushed to the one door leading upstairs, and we got to it just as that thing did. It opened it just a bit, and 4 or 5 men just slammed into it, got its hands through. Someone with a shotgun took care of that. The barrel right up to its wrist and pulled the trigger. Cut its hands off, clean. Not only pissed it off though, it started pushing on that door, clawing. We were on one side, pushing as best we could, and it was on the other, doing the same. That wood just wasn't going to hold, so someone tells us to keep our heads down. Suddenly, that top half of the door is just gone. My ears are ringing, and there are splinters everywhere. Two or three of them just unloaded at the top of that door. I don't really know where it went after that. The police got there. I was still glued to that door and what was left of it. The sun was up before they got me off of it. They put me in a hospital for a while. A lot of people talked to me, but I didn't talk back. Not for a long, long time. When I got back home, I got a job from the landlord working on the farm. We didn't talk much. Not about that thing. But I signed up for the army when I was 19, and he sat me down to drink scotch as a send-off. I asked him right away what the police told him. The story they went with was a wild animal, probably a wolf, or maybe a bear that I had migrated north. I asked them how they could say that when they had the hand. Looks at me, stunned. He tells me that hand never made it back to the station. The cop who had it in his car wrecked, drove into a tree, died on impact. The hand was never found, probably taken away by an animal. The cops, when they would acknowledge that the hand existed at all, simply said it was simply the paw of a bear that looked like a human hand. I never talked to that landlord again. He went missing when I was in base. The cops never found him. They said he owed some money to some people and just ran away. But I don't think it's that simple. I never went back to those woods. I wouldn't even if I had the whole goddamn US Army at my back. That was a lie. When my mother died, I don't think my father felt like he had anything else left, and then he might as well just settle old scores. He went to those woods, but he never came back. The FBI was called, they did a show for everyone involved, but I knew they weren't really looking. I had to get one drunk and slip him a few 50s before he finally told me that they got a few calls about those woods every year, about someone up and vanishing. That was all he wanted to tell me. Before he got up and left with the rest of his team, he wrote the rig onto a napkin. I didn't know what it meant until I searched for it on the internet, and honestly, would have rather not known. And so that was not actually, but it is a synonym for flash pedestrian. It definitely does have that, like, a little bit of crust. Classic creepypastas, you know. There were a few times when the writing was, like, very five-head. Fleshman, yes. Cinnamon fleshdestrian. That's very true. That's very true. Meat man, even. I like that. I like that. I don't remember why, but I do actually remember being uncomfortable when I first read that. But I was also like 12 when I first read that, so. Let us just see what we are reading next. Ooh, I remember this one actually. This one was also, like, say that these are good. I remember them being good, but also haven't read them in like 10 years, so I wouldn't know. This is Evaporation. Yeah, this was written in August of 2010. Jesus. Okay. Let me, before we continue, I'm gonna mute and take some sips of this tea because I'm already feeling it. I'm feeling the fatigue in the mouth. This is good tea. It's just I think it's lemon ginger, and I added like a teaspoon of honey. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, so this is evaporation. Water. Water is the cornerstone of life. It nourishes us, irrigates our crops, and waters our livestock. Water is vital for all known forms of life. We rely on it to wash our cars, clean our food, and produce our power. It has an effect on almost every activity in everyday life. Without it, civilization would cease to function. Governments would collapse, crippled by an undefeatable enemy, drought. It would only be a matter of days, no longer than a week, before every living being on Earth perished. In short, we cannot live without water. 2 days ago, we were forced to begin doing just that. I don't know how it began. Nobody left alive does. In the initial hours of it, theories range from the barely plausible, like a new form of greenhouse gas, to the ridiculous, such as a new type of light, one that only evaporated water. I remember those hours fondly. The true enormity of what had happened had not yet sunk in, and hysteria had not yet clutched the human race. What happened? I'll put it simply. The first was that every single drop of fresh water on the entire planet evaporated instantly. I don't think I can do this event justice, but I'll try. Can you imagine every single river, every single lake, every single natural source of water drying up instantly without any rational explanation? Now, I doubt you can, but that's exactly what happened. It wasn't restricted to natural sources either. As far as I can tell, all the bottled water in the world also evaporated, as did that in water tanks or other similar sources. It also disappeared from other substances, including soft drinks, creating foul sugar compounds that would make those that consumed it quite ill. There was not a single drop of fresh water left anywhere on Earth for anybody to drink. But by far, the worst result of the lack of water was the nuclear reactors. Without pressurized water, most of the nuclear reactors in the entire world, those that utilized purified water as a coolant, had no available sources of coolant, and just under half of these had poor or untested failsafe plans. The resulting effect of this led to catastrophic nuclear meltdown in roughly 46% of water-cooled reactors. The world, already reeling from the unprecedented situation, fell into total anarchy. International communication ceased after almost exactly 24 hours. But there was a second effect. The saltwater poisoning. Many people flocked to desalination plants in the first few hours, hoping for salvation. They found none. Approximately the same time as the worldwide evaporation, saline increased by 5-fold in every sea or ocean on Earth. Desalination plants were able to cope with this load for approximately 24 hours. Then, fuel began to run low. And with the imminent collapse of civilization, thanks to the multiple nuclear catastrophes, no more was delivered. Thus, the last ever drop of fresh water on Earth was pumped out no later than midnight yesterday. After the drought came the collapse. With no water available, civilization soon descended into anarchy. Governments, typical of authority to the very end, tried maintaining order. It didn't work. Soldiers rebelled, shooting rioters and runners alike. Those who didn't die were brutally executed moments after. They turned on each other soon enough, with only a few militaries intact from the carnage. The deserters fled, unwilling to stay and watch the extinction of Earth. Then it came to the worst. Then it came to the worst. Far worse than anything before it. There was, in fact, one source of water that hadn't been touched. I'm so lucky I realized it before anyone else in my town. It was blood. Blood, which is over 90% water, was the only remaining liquid fit to drink. And so some did. At first, I didn't believe it. It was too horrific. Animals went first. The desperate drank the blood of cats, dogs, pets, and feral animals of all kinds. Many offered too little blood to be of any value. The situation was made far worse by the fact that I live in a rather large metropolitan city, and beyond domesticated pets and the odd feral animal, there were no animals to catch and drink from. Perhaps those in the country fared better. I have no way of finding out, and frankly, I don't really care. I knew that humans were the only other option. I saw it first 12 hours ago. An elderly man, dressed in nothing but a torn dressing gown, slowly made his way down the street that ran in front of my house. He called for help, desperately, croaking out that his entire nursing home was dead or dying, that the nurses had fled, and that he was looking for help. He was so pitiful that I almost opened my door, if only to offer him some respite from the midday sun and some of my sparse rations. If I had been a second faster, I would not be writing this. Before I could open the door, 3 people, 2 men and a woman, pounced from the shadow of a nearby tree. The poor old bastard had no chance. They leapt up on him, frenzied in their dehydration, and set on him with makeshift tools. It was the most terrifying spectacle of my entire life. One of the men had a hammer. He set about bashing the man's joints in, one by one. I retched bile each time the hammer slammed into bone. So sickening was the crunch. Another had a gardening hoe. He hovered above the elderly man, bringing the makeshift weapon down once, twice. The tool cut through the man's ankles like a knife through steak. The metaphor made me vomit. After I did, I looked back, if only to satisfy my own growing horror. Oh, how I wish I hadn't. The woman, who was weaponless save for her own 2 hands, had straddled the man's chest. Her hands were spread on the screaming man's face as her own companions butchered him. Then, even as I watched, she dug her thumbs into his eyes. He howled like nothing I had ever heard before. He dug harder, pushing inwards and outwards simultaneously. When they were pulled free, blood and some even less discernible liquid splattered all over her. She grabbed them and ate them like a fruit. I could hear the chewing sounds from my door. He bent to consume the precious blood, and I turned away. I call them drinkers. There's one thing I want to make very clear about them. They aren't zombies, nor are they affected by some external force that forces them to drink the blood of humans, such as a virus or a disease. They are entirely human. I suspect that dehydration affects them worse than it does others, and this forces them to drink from humans in a form of pseudo-cannibalism or perish. They represent the dark side of humanity. The drinkers also seem to recognize each other through some subtle signal. Not being a drinker, I wouldn't know it. As fast as I possibly could, I took my meager supplies, some small comforts, this journal and my 357 Deagle, up to my bedroom. I pushed the bed against the door with my rapidly fading strength and piled furniture on it. The gun has a full clip of 7, and I have 1 spare, enough for 13 drinkers and, well, I'm sure you can imagine. Another 6 hours have passed. I can really feel the dehydration now. But my tongue feels numb and my skin feels like sandpaper. I tried to eat some bread before and I almost choked, with no saliva to moisten my throat. Now I'm hungry, as well as thirsty. I don't even know why I've kept writing this. Maybe it's something to occupy me during the final hours of mankind. Maybe I hold some hope that a solution will be found and someone in the future will read this and remember what it was like. Maybe I'm just delusional. It's worse. I'm breathing heavily and becoming more and more lethargic. This room feels like a sauna. I can almost see the heat waves bouncing across the room, becoming more and more intense, till I am literally cooked alive. It's not a pleasant vision. My pen keeps slipping from the page as I suffer random bursts of weakness. I'm scared I won't even be able to pull the trigger if the time comes. I'm so terribly thirsty. The last time I urinated, it burned. I haven't defecated for a long time now. My vision's fading in and out, and my head feels like it's going to split open from the intense pressure inside. My skin is so dry and leathery. I know I'm dying, but I've still got the Desert Eagle. Maybe I should kill myself before I lose the strength to do so. God knows it's better than dehydrating to death or letting the drinkers get to me. So thirsty. It's dark and I've lost the gun. Vision's almost gone. So thirsty. I'm going mad. I'm dying. Wait, what's that? Somebody's knocking at the door. They want to be let in. They say the drinkers are coming. Should I? I don't know. Maybe I'll go get a drink. I'm so thirsty. And that is that ending is me when I look at a woman. That was evaporation. I'm gonna have some more tea because I am also dry and leathery. I deserve that bonk. Deserve every bonk. That is a lie. I do not deserve every bonk. Look, alright? Those last few lines, when they said so thirsty, I'm so thirsty. That's me. I felt that, man. I've been thirsty before. He's just like me, for real, for real. Okay. I think I'm going to save my favorite one for last because unless my memory is horrid, which it probably is, this one was okay. I also like that one. I've never actually read this upcoming one, but I had heard that it was pretty good. So hopefully it's pretty good. So this is sleepwatchers.net. Very comfort, very comfy name. I like that name. That's a good name, you know? I'm not gonna check if that's a real site. I'm gonna check if that's a real site. I'm gonna get fucking jump scared. Get screamered, bro. It doesn't exist. Did you look at that? Come on. That would have been cool. Okay, so this is sleepwatchers.net. Yes, it's sleep-watchers.net. I looked it up and it's an open domain. We could buy sleepwatchers.net right now, chat. It's pretty good. I'll have to redirect it to my chat. That'll be sick. Maybe I buy that domain. Okay. Life is supposed to be better after graduation. You walk across that stage, grab your diploma, and then you are welcomed into the real world with open arms. All those parties, all the cheering, all the gifts, all the congratulations you get. It's all supposed to represent the new world you're about to join. I mean, you just made it through the Hollow High School. 4 years of stress and drama, and now you're finally free to be an adult. Life after high school isn't what you think it is. They don't tell you everything. They don't tell you the secret, the real secret of the world. Of I'm gonna read this and try not to laugh. They don't tell you everything. They don't tell you the real secret of the world, of society, of what life is truly about. They don't tell you about the never-ending cycle of money, the endless grind to make a buck. They don't tell you about greed. When did this story come out? August 2017. When did Joker come out? Like 3 years later? When did that come out? 2 years later. Is there a Joker Wojak? Okay, you know, for the rest of this stream, not for the rest of the stream, for the rest of this story specifically, this is gonna be our main character, okay? We're gonna have this. It's probably based off of Heath Ledger's. No, this is society. It's society. We're gonna leave that right there. Society just like Joker from the movie Joker. Fuck, I'm not gonna be able to take this fucking story seriously now. Literally tell you, the society has secrets. Society puts me in a cage. But the wagey cagey. Society. Okay. Alexa, can we play Joker 2019 theme? No, no, no. Clip this one coming up. I don't tell you everything. I don't tell you the real secret of the world, of society, what life is truly about. I don't tell you about the never-ending cycle of money, the endless grind to make a buck. I don't tell you about greed. What a nice cereal box. I see. I see. Oh no. Fuck, man. I'm not gonna be able to take the rest of this fucking story seriously now. Just gonna be fuck. It's just. Society. Society puts me in a cage. They call it the wagey cagey. You know, my father. turn the fucking Joker music off, man. Reading stream, by the way. Let's have a. Let's have this real quick. My father. Ah, God. Society. Okay. Just pop my fingers real quick here. Okay. We got the hee-hees out. If I had known, maybe it would have been better. Maybe I would have been better prepared for the time after graduation. Maybe I wouldn't have been so self-righteous. And maybe I wouldn't have ended up where I am right now. Sleepwatching. The newest way to make some cash. Manny told me about it. Old, good-hearted Manny. He meant well. He really did. I mean, he has been my best friend since freshman year. He didn't know what would happen. Excuse me while I walk away from the microphone. Lower it a little bit for chat real quick so it's not too loud. Society! Manny did not know about society. He was in the same boat. I was told this was gonna be a good story. Is this what they meant? Is this what... Did they mean society? We both experienced the newfound struggle for money after graduation. We're just kids. Lazy, stuck-up kids. We thought we were too good for some entry-level job at McDonald's or Walmart. We wanted something that was going to bring in money quick and easy. So, him being the best friend that he is, we looked around online. It didn't take him long to find exactly what we both wanted. He found sleepwatching, a job in which you get paid to do absolutely nothing. Ollie, all you have to do is sit there and stay awake. He had texted me. The way he explained it, sleepwatching would be the easiest job on Earth. And just like most things that end in disaster, it seemed too good to be true. So, me being exuberant about my brand new job opportunity, I raced to my computer and with all the excitement of a boy who had just found Willy Wonka's fifth and final golden ticket. Didn't talk to anyone else about it, just sat down at my desktop, launched Chrome, and began looking up the wonderful world of sleepwatching. You see, it's a pretty ingenious idea. People are afraid of being alone. With how connected the world is these days, they can't stand the loneliness of the night. And so, of course, these people would pay extremely well just to have someone sit up with them while they rest for the night. Sleepwatching.net, as I had found out, is the premier place to get all of your sleepwatching needs. Just apply to join as a trusted watcher, and in a few days be matched with a sleeper in need. Sign up that day. All over Twitch. Twitch? I typed into the bar, putting in information you shouldn't put into any website. I assured myself, though. I understood that sleepwatching.net needed to do a security check on me, making sure I wasn't joining for any nefarious reasons. Besides getting back in society. I need more tea, man. Maybe some fucking alcohol too. Told y'all I wouldn't be able to get the rest of this story done. Seriously. It took a few days for the acceptance email to finally come in. I remember getting it. How I had been refreshing my email endlessly, just waiting for the green light to pay dirt. I immediately logged into the website, and to my surprise, I already had an alert from a sleeper in need. In that moment, I wasn't thinking. I just knew that someone was willing to pay me. I clicked on the link, and it gave me a brief profile of the sleeper who wanted me. Her name was Viola, a sweet name for a sweet, innocent old lady. 74 and alone in life. Her husband had died a few years earlier, and her family had leased her out an apartment and had forgotten about her. But she put on her profile that she had some trouble sleeping of late and thought that having someone younger there with her would do a lot to ease her insomnia. I greedily accepted. The rate for the job was amazing. Old people pay extremely well. We messaged a little that day, just short messages. She wanted to make sure I was okay with the job and the pay. All she needed me to do was to be on the webcam feed. She said she was fine with me doing anything else during the night. It had been around noon when we talked, so I decided to take a nap. I had to be prepared for an all-nighter. An all-nighter that would hopefully get me paid. It had been around noon. I read that one already. Okay. It got dark around 9 where she lived. I was an hour behind, so it was still daylight when we got ready to call. Before I hit the dial button, a pop-up window appeared on my screen. A special message straight from sleepwatchers.net. The rules, it said across the top of the page. Listed below this simple heading was a short list. Do not fall asleep. For no circumstance may you wake the sleeper. Do not touch the red emergency button unless there is an emergency. Do not fall asleep. I laughed at the rules at the time. They were all basic. Common sense that anyone should have known before taking a job as a watcher. I clicked the agree button at the bottom of the page and then waited for my call to Viola to connect. She was such a sweet old lady. She had this innocent smile on her face as she appeared on the screen, and she looked genuinely happy to see me. "Hi, Oliver," she said. "Thank you so much for doing this. I hope this isn't too much trouble and that you have a good night." I assured her that I would, that I had a few open tabs that I would be able to be working on while she slept. I told her good night, and she laid into bed. In what seemed like just a few short moments, she was peacefully asleep. I watched her for a little while. There's a strange peace in watching somebody sleep, watching their chest move as they breathe slowly. So I was watching Viola at her most vulnerable. I knew there wasn't anything to worry about, but still, having a life in your hands can change you. I'm gonna lower. What do you mean by that? But like, really though, what do you mean by that? After just a little of watching Viola sleep, I began surfing the web. I had all night to endlessly search, so, lucky me, getting paid to do what I had been doing that night anyways. The night went by quickly, quietly. There was one point during the night I thought I heard something coming from the video feed. Almost sounded like breathing, but me being the smartass kid that I am, knew that it was just the sound all video cam feeds make when both sides are silent. I now realize that only one side of the feed had been silent. I don't like this. That's not comfy. Okay, my webcam's unplugged. That's cool. In the morning, my goodness, why am I loud? In the morning, when the first rays of the sun were beginning to fill Viola's room, she woke up. No alarm for her, just sunlight. I happened to be watching as this happened, just doing my job, you know? Her first move was to look to her side, the empty portion of her bed. She placed her hand on the unused pillow there, and I could have sworn I saw her body shudder. Then, I guess she gathered herself and she turned around to look at her laptop, which was sitting on the desk next to her bed. She smiled, that genuine smile again when she saw me. Asked me how my night had been. I told her that it went smoothly. She sighed a sigh of relief and thanked me. Told me she had just got the best sleep in weeks and to have a good day. And then hung up the feed. I'm a teenager. I'm used to all-nighters, but with my job done, I gladly went to bed with a smile on my face. The next few nights were the same. I would video call Viola around 8 at night, and she would be asleep by 8:05. Thank God the internet is endless. I learned so much useless crap during those nights. One night, the peacefulness of our schedule was interrupted. I remember it in some detail. Viola woke up around 3, drowsily nodded at me, and headed to the bathroom, from which the camera angle I can see was connected to the bedroom by a small door on the other side of her bed. At that point, I had never really looked at the feed. I mean, nothing ever changed on it, so there was no point. I only ever really looked to have a moment of peace from the bluntness of the internet. I was watching while she was in the restroom, though. Maybe out of boredom, or maybe because I wanted her to feel safe when she got back into bed. I can't really remember. I saw something while she was in the restroom. It was only for a second, but I swear to you that I saw it. A hand. An oversized, bleach white hand. It was inching its way out from behind a curtain that covered the window. Motherfucker, something hit my window. Something hit my window, chat. What's my neighbors doing? Why they bangs in their backyard? I hear bangs in their backyard. Uncomfortably timed. Very uncomfortably timed. Did society hit your window? Bro, I fucking wish, dude. It was. Okay. I only saw it for a second, but it raised every hair on my body into attention. I continued staring into that same spot, trying to catch any more evidence of something being wrong. Nothing happened. So I shrugged it off, blaming it on the mixture of midnight drowsiness and Red Bull. Viola came out of the restroom and went back to bed. Her only communication to me was that soft smile before her head hit the pillow and she was peacefully back out. The way she fell asleep so quickly, she treated sleep like a luxury that I could tell she had been missing out on as of late. I felt proud to be the person that could give that luxury to her. A few nights later, 5 nights ago, everything changed. Night started out as normal. Viola and I following our established routine. Her whispering a "good night, Ollie" to me and passing out. The quietness of her room. The sound of me clicking away into Google, trying to find some new information that I had yet to exhaust. Everything was normal. It's all my fault. I didn't nap as much as I should have had that day. Fuck. Rereading that line. There's a fucking typo and it's wigging out my brain. It's all my fault. I didn't nap as much as I should have that day. I didn't have a Red Bull on me. I didn't try as hard enough to stay awake. I fell asleep. I broke the rules. I slept hard. I was out of it for at least an hour. Drilling on my keyboard, dead to the world and useless to Viola. Woke up to a suddenly. I woke up suddenly. I think I heard some kind of bang, but I can't remember. Maybe a buzzer? I'm not sure. My head came up quick though. I wasn't sure as to what was going on, but I think that my body instinctively knew that something was wrong. After I had figured out where I was, I went straight to Viola's tab. She was peacefully asleep. Whatever had awoken me hadn't disturbed her in the slightest. I smiled to myself. With that nap, I would be good to go for the rest of the night, and Viola was still perfectly okay. That's when I saw him. The ghoul I now call the Watcher. My smile was instantly gone. He was standing on the corner of Viola's room, mostly hidden by the darkness. What I could make out about him was his extreme height and his narrow body. I could also see his eyes. They were white, entirely white. They seemed to be reflecting some ungodly light. They were directed straight at me. I couldn't move. Fear was like ice, and in that moment it froze me. He begun to move towards Viola. He didn't walk, but he didn't float like a ghost. He moved smooth, but at the same time his movements were rigid. Viola's back was to him, and her sleeping face was pointed in my direction. This is where I broke rule number 2. You see, I did the only thing that I could think to do. I yelled. I yelled and I screamed for Viola, trying to wake her. It worked. I now wish it hadn't. Her eyes popped open and instantly locked with mine. As she did this, though, the Watcher was upon her. He began slamming both of his fists into her body, over and over again. It made this sick, wet sound, a rhythmic thud. I saw it all. It was like having a front row seat to a band that disgusts you. I saw the look of surprise she had when she first woke up, the confusement on her face when he first slammed that white fist into her, and then the fear that as she realized what was happening. Blood was everywhere. It wouldn't stop coming. Viola's eyes were on me the whole time. She was crying. She had given up and was steadily weeping as he beat her. Ollie, I barely heard her whisper. Help me. I tried to do the only thing I could. I grabbed the mouse and clicked that onto that red emergency button, the one that's only supposed to be used during emergencies. It didn't work. This feature is restricted at the current time to user Wishbone 43. Reason: disobedience of the rules. Some way, somehow, Sleepwatchers.net knew I had fallen asleep. It knew, and now it was punishing me. I turned my attention back to the thing as it continued slamming its oversized fists into Viola. Those once white hands were covered in blood. Viola's eyes were lifeless. She was gone. I could still hear her plead for help in my ears. I cried. I sat in front of my computer with my head in my hands, and I cried. Viola died because of me. An innocent old lady died because I couldn't keep my stupid little eyes open. Remember how I talked about how it feels to have a life in your hands? Well, really, really sucks when that life is lost and you're to blame. The tears wouldn't stop coming. They still haven't. I listened to the continuous slamming of the Watcher's fists into Viola's body. After a little bit of time, they finally stopped. It took every ounce of courage that I had to look up, but I did. Those white eyes were staring at me. Those huge white hands, covered in blood, covered in Viola's blood, hung limply at his sides. Those eyes didn't say anything, but I knew what that thing was trying to tell me. It's all your fault, Ollie. I haven't slept since that night. Viola haunts my dreams, and if I close my eyes for even a second, she's there, screaming at me, cursing my name with that innocent voice. She knows it's my fault, and she won't let me forget it. That thing is coming for me. Viola's death was just the beginning, the first part of a 2-part punishment. My death will be part 2. I don't know what to do. I haven't told anyone. I know anyone I could possibly tell would think I'm insane, and if they didn't instantly call me crazy, well then they would know that Viola's death is my fault. Isn't that monster's hands? Isn't that monster's hands that are covered in blood? It's mine. It has been getting closer every night. At first, it was just shadows, things that could be mistaken as nothing. But now, I hear his breathing. I see those blood soaked hands everywhere. That low, almost silent breathing. I hear it no matter where I go. He's always watching. I know he's here right now, behind me as I type, standing over my shoulder and reading what I have to say about him. This nightmare is torture. I'm going to go insane soon if I don't sleep. Please, please, I'm begging you. I will give you everything I own. Just please go find my account on Sleep Watchers. Please, be my watcher. I won't make it through another night without one. Please don't let me die. Damn, that's crazy, Watcher. So, how you feeling? How you feeling? You feeling good behind me, bro? You like the way I read your story? That's a cute little chain email story. I like that. That was pretty good. was definitely better than Flesh Pedestrian. Bitch, shut. But like, what if I had to turn around, man? Because I did to get my tea. But that wasn't too bad. I like that. A little bit uncomfy. Just a little bit. Chat. Chat, shut up. Shut up about fucking. Shut up. Shut up. I know it's there. Hold on. Take it away. Society. No, my father was somewhat of a watcher. He would come into my mom's room when she slept. I'm gonna finish my tea before we continue. But hopefully these. I don't know if the one that I really liked is going to compare to Sleep Watchers. That's been a little bit, but I do remember it being okay. Pretty good build up. Not too like super gory, unnecessarily gory at least. Gore's good when it's done right, you know? I feel like Flesh Pedestrian wasn't too good because it was just needlessly gory, I think. With like the deer and stuff. Very funny beginning. It made the creepy ending better. It made it very good. It was very good. There were a few. What's it called? Typos. But it was good. I have two more. One of them is on a website that is horrible to read on my it's horrible on my eyes. I think what I might do is copy all of this and put it on WordPad. Yeah, that's a little bit easier to read. Maybe zoom in on the page a little bit. Yeah, that's good. What someone says, Peacock.
No one bats an eye. But someone says poop cock. Everyone loses their mind. How it chews the gum 5 feels. That's what Viola did, bro. That's what Viola felt. I bet Viola knows how it feels to chew 5 gum. Okay. This upcoming one is named "You Look Like My Son." I do not know if that means that there is an imposter among us. We got a commercial idea for you. So it starts off with an old lady sleeping on a laptop screen. I like the concept of that story. Ooh. I think that's a cute little like um chain letter esque story, but like not just like a fucking Astolfo will come to your bed if you don't come to your bed and suck your dick and call you gay if you don't send this to like 5 other people on your feed, you know? Like that's cute. I like that. It reminds me a lot of the concept of It Follows, which is um an allegory for STDs, but it's good. It's good. I like that. Not an allegory for STDs. My bad. It is literally a movie about STDs. But I'm sure there's a metaphor there somewhere. My brain is not there right now. My brain is honestly, my brain is still thinking about society. Okay, but this is "You Look Like My Son." My eyes are in a fervorous affair with the clock, and my focus is none the wiser. The police dispatcher is pleading for me to humor her inquiries, if for no reason other than to keep my consciousness afloat. It is so late, and today has been so challenging. Nevertheless, I'll gratify her with my story, because I am in really no mood to tell it again later. Miriam Cliffington happened into our photo center again today. These visits are becoming relentless, as are the innumerable poorly photoshopped images on her SanDisk flash drive. Every day it's the same process. She purchases at our photo kiosk, orders small batches of 5x7 and 4x6 photos, and croons over the photo printer as it squeals its mechanical protests. The unfortunate photo specialist on duty is then scolded by our dear old Miriam, as the color in my son's face is coming out too pale, and my granddaughter's dress looks much too washed out. Becomes as recitable as the Lord's Prayer. The project is then gifted to me, as I am the only one who receives her limited mercy. This is due in part because I am the only one in the store qualified as a professional photo editor. I also look just like her son. At least, that's what she tells me every time she swoons over the photos I correct. I personally never saw the extreme resemblance. We have similar Hollywood-esque hairstyles, dark stubble, light eyes, and a fair complexion. But that is where the similarities end. Well, that is my general assumption. Truthfully, I had never met him. According to Miriam, they don't get along so well these days. Reportedly, her son has become what she calls a changed person after he split with his wife. That always seemed odd to me, because nearly every day I am draining the red out of a new family photo that she zealously adds in her novice Photoshop sessions. It seems like the family stays often in touch. Today, we discussed more personal topics, such as my college degree and her family get togethers. She told me she was celebrating her granddaughter Gracie's 5th birthday today. They were putting together a photo album and baked goodies to send her. Today's photos were of the girl from her previous birthday. She had straw blonde hair, her father's bright blue eyes, rosy red cheeks, and a devilish grin that strongly reminded me of the girl from the movie Problem Child 2. When the topic turned to me being a graduate in multimedia design, she immediately began to give me the shakedown on my talents as a web developer. She wanted me to build her a forum-based website just for her family. She wasn't too fond of the public limelight, social media granted, but wanted regular updates from her son, granddaughter, their prized show horses, and images from all the reunions they have had over the years. I'm not a fan of Miriam. She may treat me in a more humane manner than my colleagues, but she is always so bitter. She carries an air of importance around her that mismatches who she is, like a pug in a sweater made of silk. The last thing I want from a client is a beady pair of eyes reflected behind ancient, dark-rimmed tortoiseshell glasses, critiquing my every line of code with ignorant words laced with the smell of stale coffee and menthol cigarettes. Her gray-black hair was often wild and tangled. She was fleeing home every morning to develop photos which contained the cure for cancer. Despite her lack of self-management, she saw herself as an expert in managing the talents of others. I never inquired about the specifics of her family problems, but I assumed this attitude must cause the bulk of it. That this sense of entitlement is something I don't blend well with. After endless barrages of questions about my rates, schedule, and ability to tutor her in Photoshop, I gave her my business card and told her to call me in a few weeks. Truthfully, I'm in my 2-week leave period and on my way to a better job, and this was the simple method to evade her until I would never have to see her again. She seemed content with my proposal and took my card. Told her to forward my congratulations to her granddaughter on her 5-year milestone. As she shuffled out of our store, I looked again at the refuse pile of discolored prints. If her family is so dysfunctional, why does she bring in new pictures of her son and granddaughter every other day? Why? As a spitting image of the son she so frequently quarrels with, am I so reasonably treated by her? Those suspicions came to fruition a few hours later, when a 20-something couple dropped off a few rolls of 35mm film. They had matching black hair, the athletic builds of bicyclists, and eyes that reflected deep kindness, but an even deeper sense of fatigue. The lab's business was running slow today, so I was immediately able to process their order and begin development. The development process is always the same. I just feed enough of the raw film through a machine to attach it to a leader card, which is mechanically guided through the film processor. After it completes its voyage and the developed film is fed through, I place it on the scanner of our printing machine and check the frames digitally for color flaws and inconsistencies. The pictures show the young couple celebrating another birthday. A boisterous banner which read, "Happy Birthday, Mitch," hung over an electric blue neon minibar. The couple was shown holding beer bottles and laughing heartily. The entire set was quite like the photos most young couples bring in. There was a sloppy drunken kiss here, some air guitaring on a table there, I began complacently pressing the print button after every 6 frames. Then I noticed a picture of Miriam's son. Even though I had never met him, I had seen that face often. It was a face that was branded into the back of my eyes like the bright red digits of a digital alarm clock in the first moments of morning consciousness. I was intrigued that these two might also be familiar with the eccentric women who both frowned upon and adored as her family. As I was packing up their photos and ringing up their orders, I decided to make conversation. So, you know Marion Cliffington? I asked casually. Silence. Glance upward, and the glance became a fixture. A paleness and shock had matched the exhaustion they both wore in their eyes. Are you okay? I recognized her son in your photos. The girl spoke, tears welling in her eyes. That's our friend Mitch. Those photos were taken a few weeks ago. He passed last week. This order is for his funeral slideshow. Her boyfriend spoke next, clearly unsettled but retaining his composure as he quickly recited what I'm sure he had gotten used to explaining. He and his daughter were found dead in Miriam's home on last Sunday, poisoned. The police had been seeking her for questioning. Have you seen her recently? I was floored. I am rarely one to lose my control, but I began tripping over my words like they were raised on a wire. Yes, I mean, she was in here just a few hours ago. She said that they were celebrating Gracie's 5th birthday. She is working on a new photo album. They said they were new photos. The girl spoke next. We need to call the police immediately. Gracie's birthday was on Tuesday before they were found. They didn't enjoy visits with Miriam, but she insisted on being with them to celebrate. All them I did. I spent the rest of my shift plus 2 extra hours conversing with the police detective and the couple. He asked me to print out the information we had on Miriam and if we had any idea of her whereabouts. They inquired about the frequency of her visits, the types of purchases she makes for the rest of the store, her current appearance, and general abnormalities in her behavior. I gave them what they needed, along with the surveillance footage from the cameras we had hidden around the building. They gave me the direct line to call their office, and sent me off with the assurance that I would call them immediately if Miriam came into the shop again. The drive home felt relatively non-existent. The thoughts of what occurred seemed to dominate my sense of time along the road. This lady who compared me to her own son been responsible for his death? For the death of his daughter? Would I see her before the police? I arrived at my house in the same psychological state as I was when I left the store. I nearly broke my ankle stumbling over a package that had been placed in front of my entryway. I brought it inside to the light, and I saw that the sender's name was Mom. I wasn't sure what the occasion was, but I assumed it was a late Thanksgiving care package. Regardless, it was good to receive mail from her. I wasn't sure where her new apartment was. Inside the package was a tin box of cookies and a neatly wrapped rectangular gift. I hadn't gone to eat lunch with all the police activity, so I immediately started tanking through the cookies as if I had also skipped my last 5 meals. After my 4th cookie, I decided to wipe the crumbs from my hands to see what the mystery gift was. I unceremoniously ripped the red and gold metallic paper off to see what appeared to be a small photo album bound in a black vinyl. I opened it with giddy curiosity and immediately felt the blood empty from my face. It was a timeline of photos of Miriam Cliffington's family. These weren't the fun family get-togethers I had recreated at the photo lab. I hadn't printed these at all. Page 1. Mitch and Gracie are propped against the arm of a tan leather sofa, daughter wrapped in father's arms. Their eyes are sunken and rolled backwards, and their tongues are lolled out of their mouth in an unnatural brown color. There is dried spittle and yellow foam caught in Mitch's black stubble, and a mixture of blood and vomit on the front of Gracie's shirt. The blood vessels in their faces are a sickly blue, and their skin is pale and puffy. This photo is labeled Tuesday. Happy birthday, Gracie. Page 2. The bodies are placed in a maroon 2013 Toyota RAV4. They have been cleaned up and posed, Mitch in the front seat, Gracie in the center back seat. Their skin has continued to swell so their eyes are puffy slits. Their now purple lips have been sewn shut and side-stitched into makeshift smiles. One of Mitch's arms is placed on the wheel, the other propped against the passenger seat in a pathetic wave. The label, Wednesday, taking Gracie to school. Page 3. The bodies are now dressed in swimsuits and are posted on a kiddie pool. Mitch had to be propped up in an unknown manner that is cleverly hidden within from the frame. He is on his knees at the edge of the pool in blue and white Hawaiian shorts. Gracie is in the pool, positioned on her belly in a striped pink one-piece bathing suit with a matching swim skirt. And their hands are duct taped together, and their skin has been taken on a sickly yellow color. They are starting to bruise and darken in the areas which they have been evidently placed for too long. The label, Thursday, teaching Gracie to swim. Page 4. Mitch is now dressed in a handsome ivory tuxedo, which has a few off-color stains where his skin is starting to split open. He is at his kitchen table with a full glass of white wine and a lit dining candle in front of him. The sleeves on his arms reveal dark bruising where the tape was wrapped around with his daughter's arms the days before. Gracie is not in this picture, but Miriam is. She is grasping one of his rotting hands in one of her own, with a brimming glass of red wine in the other. She wears a motherly smile that sickeningly matches the sewn smiles on her now lifeless son. The label, Friday, dinner with the boy. Page 5. Gracie is propped against the wall, the skin of her arms ripped off where the tape was 2 days prior. Her face is beginning to lose its humanity, but is now coated in makeup worthy of a Little Miss Sunshine pageant. Her straw blonde hair is curled and bouncy, and her artificial smile is beginning to tear along the stitching. Next to her is an assortment of porcelain dolls, each made up and dressed with care that is a bit too sophisticated for a 5-year-old girl. To the far left of the frame, Miriam's reflection can be seen in a full-body mirror, pointing to the camera at the twisted salon she constructed. The label, Saturday, Girls' Night Out. Page 6. There is finally a full frame of the house in which the sickening family montage was photographed. It is a modest, one-story home on the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. The paint is a simple white, and it is beginning to flake from a simple picket fence that marked the perimeter. There are no homes close by that are visible from the angle of the shot. In the left of the frame, the stables of the prize horses Miriam mentioned are visible in the background. The gates are wide open, and the horses are nowhere to be seen. Police cars, ambulances, and yellow crime scene tape blocks the rest of the view, except for the mailbox. The address on the mailbox matches the same on the package. The sides of the frame indicate motion blur and plastic paneling. Miriam photographed this from a moving vehicle, likely from far away. The label reads Sunday. The family gets to see policemen in action on career day. On the final page, Miriam is standing in front of my house with the package I had just opened. The label, Thursday, dropping off goodies for my favorite son. In that moment of realization, weakness took control of my body. Not just from the imagery I was just subjected to, but from a sickening feeling that burned in my stomach and intestines. Words from earlier were ripping into my skull. You look just like my son. He and his daughter were found dead in Miriam's house last Friday, poisoned. I forced myself to scan the backgrounds of these horrible pictures. On the first page, in Gracie's lap, was the cookie tin I had just eaten from. This package was not from my mother. It was from a crazed mother who thought I was her son, guided to my home from the business card I gave her. Now here we are. I don't think I have much time left. I am starting to lose focus. My eyes are in a fervous affair with the clock, and my focus is none the wiser. Maybe they'll get married and elope. I'll invite this dispatcher to the wedding if I make it through this. I vaguely realize that this doesn't make sense, but I don't mind. I am so tired. Now I can't stop coughing. I think I hear sirens in the distance, but I am not sure if the ambulance has cure for vomiting blood. Someone is coming up the stairs. I have to go now. Miriam is here, and she wants to give Gracie swimming lessons.
That was really good. Holy shit. Damn. Also, I'm gonna be honest. I wanted to read one more, but my fucking throat is dying. I think that was a good one to end it on anyway. That was really good. That's a sick twist. That's nice. That is really good. I like that. Alright though, chat. That was 5 short stories. Not bad, could be better. Yeah, but it was nice for the length that it was. Let's see. Who is live right now? There's a few people live. Okay. So, I think I'm gonna be hopping off for the night. But thank you for coming by. I need to give my fucking throat a rest. I don't know if y'all heard, but I was actually smiling at the end because it was really fucking cool to see like the beginning lines of the story end and then like a little bit of change. That was good. That was pretty good. I like that one. Good stream. It was a good stream. It was fun. I'll have my schedule done probably tonight. And I will be seeing y'all probably tomorrow on Ustream when we play Terraria. But y'all have a good one. I think I'm gonna send you guys over to let's send you over to someone I haven't rated yet. And y'all have a good one. Let me get y'all with that. Do I have... Oh, bruh. And I should make a raid command. Good night. Fun stream. Don't let the watcher bite. Yeah. Alright. You guys have a good one. Thanks for stopping by today.